It's midnight and you're tuning into Nightline with me, Muhammed, Ahmed, Hamdan. The top stories. Teachers who refuse vaccination to face action after November 1st deadline. And employers must bear costs of bringing in foreign workers. Good morning. The Dewan Negara on Tuesday approved the Windfall Profit Levy Amendment Bill 2020 aimed at improving the administration of windfall profit levy. The bill, tabled by First Deputy Finance Minister Muhammad Abdullah, was approved by the majority voice of the senators after the third reading. Earlier, 7 senators took part in the debate on the bill, which has 4 sections. Muhammad said the amendments to the bill are to give justice to industry players. He said the government has met what was wanted by industry players to give justice in the bill. These amendments, according to him, are also made following engagement with industry players. Muhammad said that it is the wishes of industry players and the government hopes they will be fair to the Finance Ministry so that they can give their cooperation, adding that the aim is to give justice, and justice should be served between the two sides. The bill empowers the Finance Minister and the Royal Malaysian Customs Department Director General to remit the whole or any part of the penalty payable. The bill was unanimously approved in the Dewan Rakyat on October 12th after the third reading by Muhammad Shah. The Education Ministry will wait until November 1st before taking action against teachers who refuse to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Senior Education Minister Dr. Radzi Jidin said this was in line with the recent Public Service Department or PSD circular on the mandatory immunisation of all civil servants before the date.
Ya, sebab selepas diumumkan itu oleh JPD bahawa kakitangan awam diwajibkan, maka terdapat guru-guru yang telah pergi mendapatkan dos pertama. Maka kita sedang memantau keadaan semasa, dan apa yang paling penting adalah jika sekiranya ianya menjejaskan operasi sekolah, tindakan segera akan diambil, termasuklah membuat pertukaran kepada guru-guru.
Dr. Radzi explained that the move to transfer teachers who declined the vaccines was to ensure that they would not adversely affect their colleagues who have been vaccinated and disrupt the learning process of students. This was in line with the basic principle held by his ministry that if a teacher is not immunized, the person cannot be allowed to teach face-to-face. According to the PSD circular, federal civil servants who fail to get fully immunized against COVID-19 will be subject to disciplinary action or termination of service once the new policy on vaccination involving public service comes into effect. Meanwhile, on the immunization program of students aged between 12 and 17, Dr. Radzi said 80% had received their first shot, and there were states that had successfully achieved vaccination rate of 90%. As for the immunization of primary school pupils, his ministry will follow the decision made by the Health Ministry. At the moment, there is still no suitable vaccines for children aged below 12. Now, all costs for bringing foreign workers into this country, including the cost of quarantine and COVID-19 screening tests, will be fully borne by the employer. The matter was decided at a joint committee meeting between the Home Minister and the Human Resources Minister on the management of foreign workers in Putrajaya.
Ketibaan semua pekerja asing hanya melalui pintu masuk lapangan terbang antarabangsa Kuala Lumpur, KLIA dan KLIA 2, serta di Sabah dan Sarawak yang akan ditetapkan beberapa pintu masuk yang akan diumumkan kemudian.
The Home Minister spoke to the media after chairing the meeting with the Human Resources Minister, Dr. Sri M. Saravanan, on Tuesday. The special committee to address COVID-19, chaired by the Prime Minister on October 22nd, agreed with the Standard Operating Procedures SOP proposal for the entry of foreign workers into Malaysia for all allowed sectors. The plantation sector was the first to be allowed to accept the entry of new foreign workers. In a related development, Datuk Sri Hamdan noted that a large-scale operation to hunt down illegal immigrants will be implemented from January 1st. The operation, involving cooperation between the Home Ministry and the Human Resources Ministry, is a continuation of the implementation of the Illegal Immigrants Recalibration Program at the end of this year.
Kita bukan hanya nak memastikan mereka ni tampil ke hadapan, tapi kita juga mahu majikan mengambil ini sebagai suatu yang serius kerana masalah yang lebih besar adalah apabila mereka tidak mempunyai dokumen. Baru-baru ini kita mempunyai masalah apabila kita nak berikan vaccination, apabila mereka ada yang mati kerana COVID. Semua itu menimbulkan masalah kepada kita semua.
As of October 21st, 147,705 illegal immigrants were registered under the Return Recalibration Program, with 124,423 of them having returned to their countries of origin. More than 71 million ringgit in compound payments were collected through the program. In an immediate reaction, the Malaysian Employers Federation, or MEF, said that further discussions with stakeholders could shed light to the exact definition of, quote, all costs, unquote.
There is a need to define the term all costs related to employment that are to be borne by the employers so as to avoid any kind of dispute and confusion on the subject matter.
And that includes the type of costs are to be incurred by employers when the recruitment is done.
There is also a need for the government to discuss with the source countries on the kind of fees that can be charged by the recruitment agents at the source country and what amount should be paid or charged for those kind of services. Again, I would say that it's important for those fees to be made transparent so as to make it clear to all parties involved what kind of costs are to be incurred by the employers when they recruit the employee from certain source countries.
The MEF opined that setting a specific cost for the recruitment agents has to be looked into as well.
The government should also determine the recruitment costs that can be incurred by agents at our own country so that employers can be very clear on the kind of fees to be paid to the recruitment agents in the event they choose to use recruitment agents to recruit the foreign workers.
And for employers who wish to recruit foreign workers, here's the MEF's suggestion to the government.
It is also very important for the government to establish the procedures and the timelines to be followed in the event the employers wish to recruit foreign workers so that the employers can plan their human resources requirements in an efficient and timely manner.
Moving on, the government has to balance between the demand for health and safety as well as the demand for democratic practice in holding the Malacca state election. Senior Defence Minister Datuk Sri Hishamuddin Hussein said the government was fully aware of the public's concerns and that was why the state election would be held with strict standard operating procedures SOP.
Persoalannya sekarang bila keputusan dibuat untuk tidak mengisytiharkan darurat dan pilihan raya negeri, ianya bersyarat dengan SOP yang ketat supaya apa yang telah pun kita jayakan selama ini dalam nak mengharungi tindakan kita, respons kita ke COVID-19 tidak terjejas kerana satu pilihan raya negeri.
Speaking during a press conference at the Parliament building on Tuesday, Datuk Sri Hishamuddin also stressed that the move was not a measure to hinder democracy, but to contain the people's anger towards politicians. The Sembrong Member of Parliament, who is in charge of managing the pandemic under the National Security Council, NSC, also said that the decision was made following the rising trend of people holding election-related gatherings and events in the state. He added that such activities could not be allowed, as the Election Commission, EC, is only vested with the power to control the Malacca election process from the nomination day on November 8th. Prior to that, the responsibility as enshrined under the Prevention and Control of Infectious Diseases Act, or Act 342, are vested on the Health Ministry to be monitored by the NSC and enforced by the Home Ministry. The Election Commission, EC, will announce the Standard Operating Procedures SOP for the Malacca state election before the nomination day on November 8th. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Parliament and Law, Datuk Sri Dr. Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar, said the relevant authorities were in the midst of finalising the improved SOP to prevent the spread of COVID-19 during the polls.
SPR sentiasa berbincang dengan pihak KKM dan MKN memandangkan PRU DUN Malacca ke-15 ini akan diadakan semasa peralihan fasa Pelan Pemulihan Negara sebagaimana yang telah diumumkan oleh kerajaan. SPR akan mengumumkan SOP ini sebelum hari penamaan calon.
Datuk Sri Dr. Wan Junaidi assured that public health and safety during the election will be the government's top priority given the current COVID-19 situation. He also said that there will be no double standards in implementing all the preventive measures during the state election and hope that all parties will comply with the law and adhere to the SOP. He added the EC was also in the midst of making all the necessary preparations, including the election budget, logistics and training for the staff to handle the Malacca polls slated on November 20th. The Malacca state election is being held following the dissolution of the State Assembly after 4 state assemblymen declared that they have lost confidence in Chief Minister Datuk Sri Sulaiman Mat Ali's leadership. Malaysia has been selected to conduct third-phase clinical trials of China's Sinovac vaccine for children aged 12 and below. Second Deputy Health Minister Dr. Aaron Argodagang told the Dewan Rakyat on Tuesday that the study will be coordinated by the Clinical Research Malaysia (CRM) with the involvement of the Institute of Clinical Research.
Malaysia telah dipilih sebagai salah satu lokasi kajian klinikal fasa 3 vaksin Sinovac. Kajian ini bakal dimulakan pada hujung bulan Oktober ini dan akan dijalankan di 10 lokasi yang merangkumi 8 prositi di bawah Kementerian Kesihatan, Universiti Malaya dan UiTM.
According to him, several discussion sessions were also held by the Health Ministry with COVID-19 vaccine manufacturing companies to obtain the current status and data related to the effectiveness and safety for vaccine users aged 12 and below. The Dewan Rakyat on Tuesday was told that the Five Power Defence Arrangements (FPDA) is still relevant even after 50 years of its establishment. Senior Defence Minister Datuk Sri Hishamuddin Hussein stressed that the agreement could still play a role in helping the country face security challenges in the future.
Berdepan dengan geopolitik kuasa-kuasa besar merupakan suatu perkara yang kompleks dan bukan mudah. Tetapi kelebihan yang ada kepada negara kita ialah hubungan kita dengan 10 negara ASEAN, hubungan kita dalam pendekatan pelbagai dengan FPDA, hubungan kita secara dua hala dengan negara-negara tertentu. Ini meletakkan Malaysia dalam satu posisi yang bukan sahaja dapat mengimbangi kuasa-kuasa besar di rantau ini, tetapi pada masa yang sama cukup dihormati juga.
The FPDA, established in 1971, is the second oldest multilateral defence cooperation in the world, involving Malaysia, Singapore, New Zealand, the United Kingdom and Australia, with the key objective of protecting Malaysia and Singapore from external threats. Datuk Sri Hishamuddin also said that most recently, the Bersama Goal 2021 exercise was held from October 8th to 18th in the South China Sea and over the airspace of Malaysia and Singapore. It involved 25 fighter jets, 6 support aircraft, 6 helicopters, 10 maritime ships, 1 submarine, as well as over 2,600 military personnel from Malaysia, Singapore, the United Kingdom, Australia and New Zealand. Dato' Sri Hishamuddin added since its inception, member states have forged close cooperation through conventional exercises aimed at enhancing the capabilities of their respective countries and interoperability between the militaries of the five powers in the face of external threats. Still to come on Nightline, 15 remanded over alleged embezzlement of Mitra funds. Welcome back. The young Di-Pertuan Agong and the Raja Permaisuri Agong have arrived home safely after their special visit to the United Kingdom. The special plane carrying the royal couple landed at the Royal Malaysian Air Force RMAF base in Kuantan at 3:45 p.m. Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah and Tunku Hajah Azizah Aminah Maimunah Iskandaria were greeted by their son Tengku Arif Bendahara Tengku Muhammad Iskandar Riayatuddin Shah. Also present were members of the Pahang State Administration led by Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Wan Rosdi Wan Ismail. Upon arrival, the King and Queen underwent a COVID-19 screening test as per the Standard Operating Procedure SOP set by the Ministry of Health before heading to Istana Abdul Aziz to undergo self-quarantine. The royal couple had also undergone screening tests in London 3 days prior to leaving for home. The King and Queen left for the UK on September 17th for a special 10-day visit, the second since Al-Sultan Abdullah was installed as the young Di-Pertuan Agong. Malaysia fully supports the decision made by the ASEAN chair Brunei on the issue of representation from Myanmar at the 38th and 39th ASEAN Summit and related summits. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said this in his Twitter posting regarding Malaysia's statement at the three-day summits beginning Tuesday under the chairmanship of Brunei via virtual conference. The Prime Minister also tweeted that Malaysia urges Myanmar to continue with efforts in delivering its commitment to begin and ensure effective repatriation of the refugees, as well as protecting the human rights of the returnees. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri also touched on the COVID-19 pandemic, urging ASEAN to enhance cooperation with like-minded countries and relevant international organizations towards ensuring that vaccines were affordable, accessible and equitably shared for all, as well as prioritizing engagement in health diplomacy through greater collaboration. He added Malaysia also remains strongly committed to ratifying the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, by the end of this year, as it will help expedite regional recovery as well as resilience. During the ASEAN Foreign Ministers' online meeting on October 15th, the regional bloc took a bold step to exclude Myanmar's junta from the summit and also shot down the request by Myanmar's shadow government, the National Unity Government, to join the summit. The grouping instead decided to invite a non-political representative to represent the country. A total of 3,419 notices were issued nationwide for smoking in eateries from January until October 24th this year. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said Terengganu had the highest number of violations. In a statement on Tuesday, the Health Minister said besides Terengganu, with the most number of notices issued, Pahang was next, followed by Sarawak, Perak and Kuala Lumpur. Khairi said the notices were issued under the Enforcement Regulations of Tobacco Control 2004. He said his ministry has intensified anti-smoking enforcement activities in all eateries, especially now that the government has allowed dine-in again. All eateries, including air-conditioned and open-air diners, had been gazetted as smoke-free areas effective January 1, 2019. Khairi said the ban was not intended to punish smokers, but to avoid complications due to the habit to smokers as well as passive smokers, namely those who are around smokers. He said the Health Ministry was committed to helping smokers kick the habit, adding that registration for the mQuit Integrated Quit Smoking Service can be done via www.jomquit.com. 15 individuals have been remanded between 2 and 7 days on suspicion of being involved in the misappropriation of the Malaysian Indian Transformation Unit, or MITRA, funds. However, 2 others who were detained earlier together with the group were released on 8,000 ringgit bail each. The remand order on the suspects, aged between 24 and 68, was issued by the Putrajaya Magistrates Court on Tuesday to facilitate investigations into the case by the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC. They were nabbed in a massive operation around the Klang Valley held since Monday. According to sources, it was estimated that tens of millions of ringgit had been misused by the group, who originally applied for MITRA grants to organize socio-economic programs for the Indian community. MITRA was restructured in 2018 during the Pakatan Harapan administration and was placed under the purview of the Prime Minister's Department. However, since April 2020, MITRA was placed under the National Unity Ministry and received an estimated budget of 100 million ringgit a year. MACC Chief Commissioner Datuk Seri Azam Baki, who confirmed the arrest, said the case was being investigated under the MACC Act. US imposes new international travel vaccine rules, lifts existing restrictions. This and more when we return. Onto the foreign front, China placed a city of 4 million under lockdown on Tuesday in a bid to stamp out a domestic coronavirus spike, with residents told not to leave home except in emergencies. Tuesday's fresh restrictions came as China reported 29 new domestic infections, including 6 in Lanzhou, the capital of Gansu province in the country's northwest. The latest outbreak has been linked to the highly contagious Delta variant, with the tally hitting 198 cases since October 17th, of which 39 have been in Lanzhou. Residents of the city will now be required to stay at home, with the entry and exit of residents strictly controlled and limited to essential supplies or medical treatment. Bus and taxi services had already been stopped in the city, as Lanzhou station had also suspended more than 70 trains, including on key routes to Beijing and Xi'an. US President Joe Biden has officially signed an order imposing new vaccine requirements for most foreign national air travelers and lifting severe travel restrictions on China, India and much of Europe effective November 8th. According to the White House, as per the new order, only foreign nationals with vaccinations approved by the World Health Organization, WHO, will be allowed to board planes to the US. The White House also confirmed that children under 18 are exempt from the new vaccine requirements, as are people with some medical issues. Non-tourist travelers from nearly 50 countries with nationwide vaccination rates of less than 10% will also be eligible for exemption from the rules. Those receiving an exemption will generally need to be vaccinated within 60 days after arriving in the US. Sports football, the Qatar Stars League. Al Duhail moved level on points with league leaders Al Sadd as they beat Al Shamal 1-0 on Monday, despite playing most of the second half with 10 men. And Milson Jr. was shown the red card 2 minutes after the break, following a needless stamp on Muhammed, which earned the Brazilian his second booking of the match. Al Duhail, however, were awarded a penalty 5 minutes later, with Michael Olunga converting from the spot for the only goal of the game. With the result, Al Shamal remain bottom of the standings, following their third defeat in 4 league matches, while Al Duhail move on to 18 points and trail leaders Al Sadd, who have a game in hand on goal difference. And that's it for Nightline. As we wrap, we leave you with a stunning aerial footage that captured the vibrant autumnal colours in Newfoundland, Canada. Take a look. I'm Muhammed. I'm Hamdan. Thank you for watching and stay safe.